Hello everybody, I'm going to be doing a quick video to just give 10 tips on using Google Drive and ways that you can keep it nice and organized. The first thing I want to explain is just a quick overview of what is Google Drive and the type of files that can be stored there. Google Drive is cloud storage, meaning that instead of storing things locally to your computer, you can store things in the cloud. This is wonderful because it makes sharing things very easy, and it also makes it to where you can actually access your files from anywhere. You can get to Google Drive in two ways. One is to open up a tab and to type in drive.google.com. You could also, from any Google application like Calendar or Gmail, you can click on the waffle at the top right and find it here. A fun fact, these are all customizable in that you can move them around. So I have the ones that I use more than anything else as my top 3 icons up here. Another neat little trick is that you can, if you are logged into Google Chrome, you can actually save Google Drive as a favorite by clicking the star. And then if you delete the name, and make sure you know where you save it, so I'm going to save it in my bookmarks bar, then you can actually take these shortcuts and you can move these around too. So that's another thing that I've done. I've created a shortcut for Google Drive. I've saved it up here at the top left, and then I've taken the name off because the icon tells me what that is. I don't necessarily need to have the name because I know because of that icon that that is Google Drive. So if you right click, you can edit that to get rid of the name. So an example is our e-learning documentation. I did name that documentation because all Google Forms are going to look like this. But I saved this e-learning documentation as a favorite because now instead of having to go back to my email, since we're having to fill this out every day, I can just get to it really quickly. All right, so that was a couple of freebies. That really didn't have anything to do with Google Drive, but now I have 3 quick and easy ways to get there. I can go through the waffle, I can go to drive.google.com, or I can click on my favorite on my bookmark bar. The first thing I want to talk about are just the different types of files. Okay, so this is tip number 1. In order to create in your Google Drive, there are 3 easy ways that you can do that. The way I typically do it is to come up to the New button and then click here for a Google Doc, which is like a Word document, a Google Sheet, which is similar to Excel, a Google Slide, which is like your PowerPoint. And there are also a lot of other options. Google Form is a way you can easily get information for people. Google Drawing is a great tool if you want to create like a flyer or some type of file like that. Google Site is a website. And I'll be honest, I haven't played around with some of these other ones, but mostly these are the ones you're going to need. You can create a folder here. And so when you're organizing, that is definitely something you would want to do. And then you can also upload files from your computer, or you can upload a folder. Now, I will say that you can upload Microsoft documents and you can actually edit those now. That is a relatively new feature. Used to have to convert it in order to be able to edit it, but now you can upload your Microsoft documents and edit it, and it still keeps it in that Microsoft Word format. So that is an option if you're still wanting to stick with your Microsoft suite. Typically what I do first is I create my folder. So I would want to come up here and click New Folder, and then I'm going to be naming that folder a naming scheme that is something that I would remember. So I would call this Organizing Drive because I'm doing this for you guys. So once I click Create, that's going to put a folder in my Google Drive called Organizing Drive. And then everything that I create, I'm going to want to put in there. There are a couple other ways that you can quickly and easily access this folder. One is to right-click your folder and change the color. And so if this is something I know I want to access and be able to easily see, I could change that to, let's say, green. And so you'll notice I have done that for some of my things that I do need to be able to see quickly. Leadership meetings, that's something that happens once a month, and I need to be able to go in there and find those files. I will be honest, I don't use this feature, but it is something that you could do. Another thing you could do is to right click and you can click add to starred. And so what that does is over here on the left, there is a starred filter. And so if I click on starred, that will show all of the folders that I have starred that I want to get to quickly. So e-learning is something that, as you can imagine, I have been working in a ton. And so I have that starred so that I can get there very fast. What works best for me is putting an asterisk at the beginning of my folder name. And so these are the folders that I need to be able to access, or that I access more often than anything else. So by putting a star there, it just moves it to the top of my drive, because I'm going to be honest, I am not the most organized person. And so I'm trying to scroll down so you can see all of my files, but I have got a ton of files that are not in a folder. And as you can tell, I have a ton of folders. So I'm going to go back to my organizing drive folder. I'm going to right click so that I can rename it. And if I just put 1 or 2 or 3 asterisks at the beginning, that's going to bump that folder up to the top of my Google Drive. Because it does it in alphabetical order, it's going to put your asterisks first, and then it's also going to put your numbers first. So that's another option too. You could name things by numbers if you didn't want to do asterisks. But this system is what works best for me. But you do have the option to change the color of that folder as well as add it to your starred folder over here. So once you have created that folder, you can navigate to that folder, double clicking it to open it. And now if I click new, I can create a Google Doc, a Google Sheet, a Google Slide, and it's going to save that file in this folder. So I'm just going to call this example. Now in my organizing drive folder, I have this file called example, and I could do that as well with all of the other documents. You can also go new, and you can go to file or folder upload. And so this is, I'm working on a video for the teacher parade, and these are some of Sam's pictures. So let's say I wanted to have one of these pictures, or I could navigate, let's say, to my download folder. I tend to save everything in my downloads, because once I get it in Google Drive, I don't need it anymore. Let's double click on this drive download. Okay, so here are some pictures. So I might double click one of these pictures and it's going to bring it into this folder. And because I have navigated in my Google Drive to this folder, that's where it's going to put it. If I have files outside of that Google Drive folder that I want to move in there, it's really easy to do so. You go to that particular file and you right click and then you say move to. So I'm going to take this and I'm going to navigate to that new folder, which should be at the top because I have the asterisks. And I could even go within there to see any subfolders that I might have. So I'm going to click move here. So having a good naming scheme is really important. Then putting folders within folders is going to be your best bet. So you don't end up with a ton of different folders like I have, as well as a bunch of different files. Another neat feature that you can do is to, and this is not how I prefer to do it. I always prefer to go to my Google Drive, go to the folder or the location in my Google Drive that I want something to be created. And then from there, I would create my new document or upload my document or whatever. But I have seen a lot of teachers and people do it this way. They'll go to their waffle and they'll go straight to docs, sheets, or slides. And they'll access their documents this way. Honestly, I'm not saying this is bad, it's just not the way that my brain works, but they'll come here and they'll start a new presentation from here. So you would always want to come up here and rename it. So if you just click in there, I'm going to say example slides. And then if you give it just a minute, a folder is going to pop up right here. And this is where you could then move it to the destination you wish it for it to be in your Google Drive. So instead of doing it the way I prefer, which is to go to Google Drive, go into that folder, click new, and then go to Google Slides that way. A lot of people like to go to slides.google.com or the Google Slide app, click New, and then save it where they want it to be saved. So I'm going to move it to my Organizing Drive folder, and I'm going to say Move Here. And it lets me know that that's happened. Now you can see in my Organizing Drive folder that's shown up. Now this is called a parent folder. So if I wanted to create another folder within that folder, that's called a subfolder. So I'm going to create one called Images. Now the reason I would like to teach you about subfolders is because that will help you be even more organized. I have had teachers put in create a folder for lesson plans, and then within that lesson plan folder there's a math and a science and an ELA folder, and then within those folders you might have your units of study. And so instead of having just everything in a big mess similar to mine, you can go into some of my folders. So for example, this oral history project folder, and you can see the different years that we have done this project. And if you double click on that, that's going to show you the different schools. And so there's just folder within folder. Now, this is important also when it comes to sharing. You can share individual files in Google Drive. And so back at the beginning of this video, I told you that's one of the perks of having your documents in the cloud, is because it makes sharing those documents so much easier, especially documents that you might want to share with family or with friends of videos and images, or like really large file sizes. If you try to email those or text those, or even if you were to post them on Facebook or another platform like that, it takes the file and it compresses it so that it's a much smaller file, and so you don't have the best resolution. But if I go back to my drive, if you look up here, this is called your breadcrumb. This is your trail of where you are. So I can even go into like the Clemson folder. And within the Clemson folder, I have more folders. I've got my B-roll, I've got my footage, I've got my music, my narration. So let's go in and say that we're trying to find some B-roll footage that we want to use, which is mostly pictures. You can look up here and you can see the trail of where we've gone. And so I can decide where I want to go back in this. I use this all the time. So if I wanted to go all the way back to the parent, or to that OHP folder, that parent folder, so I can go look at another year, it's just a quick way to do that. So I said, let's go back and look at my organizational folder that I created, you guys. If I just click on my drive right here, that takes me back to my drive home. All right, so I'm going to open up my organizational drive, and I have these images, this image folder that I want to share. So I'm going to show you guys real quickly how you can upload these files. So here are all the pictures that I want to share. You can either go to the first one, scroll down to the last one, and hold Shift on your keyboard and click. Notice it selected several images. Or I'm going to click off of that. You could click one and hold Control while you select different ones. So let me make these a little smaller so you can see I've selected 3 out of all of them. And so this allows you to not have to upload one file at a time to Google Drive, or I can decide that I want to upload all of them. So I just clicked on one and hit Control A, and then I'm going to click Open. It's going to show me over here how much time is left, so where it is in that process of uploading my items. And so I have to leave Google Drive open, but I can actually go away from this folder, and I'll come back to that. So I'm going to make that get a little smaller. Okay, so now that I have my files uploading there, I also want to move these. There are 2 ways to do that. I can drag and select those 2. So I clicked on my mouse underneath, and I click and drag until this little box selected them. Then I can right click and move to. So if I click that, I would have to navigate, or because I can see the folder I wish to move them into, I can select these images, and then I can just drag them into that folder, and that would also move them. From my drive, I have created a folder. I put asterisks to move it to the top. You don't have to do that, but just the ones that you're going to use more often, that's helpful. I've created a subfolder within that folder. Let me make another folder called Docs. All right, so now I've got my images, and they're not all in there, but I'm going to pretend like they are for sake of time. So now if I want to share all of these, it would be a huge pain for me to right click and share one at a time. So what you can do is you can actually right click on this parent folder or the subfolder, and you can share that way. Or if I'm in this view and I know all of my images are in there, I can right click that folder and click share. And so if I share this folder with a particular person, they have the ability then to see everything that I put in that folder. So this is great for when you want to work with the team, or so like Tara, Bryce, and I work very closely together. So we have several folders that we have shared amongst each other, or the coaches, whenever we worked on the big read, we have a folder in there where we can all see everything, which is great. Another option is to get that shareable link. And so now by default, it's always going to be that anyone in Anderson 2 can view. But sometimes I might want it to where someone outside of our organization can see it. So let's say that I wanted to send these pictures to my mama. What I would do would be to click here, go to more, and I would say anyone with the link. And so now anyone that has a link to this folder, so I can copy that link and put it in an email, would be able to see everything that's in that folder. So it's just an easy way to share really large files or a lot of files at one time. Okay, so looking over here on the left, there are a few options. You've got your priority. It says find what you need faster, make priority your Drive homepage. That's pretty neat. That looks like a great way to organize your Google Drive because it looks like you can choose what you want to put here. Get back to files you're currently working on so you can pick right up. That's pretty cool. I'm going to leave this, though, as my homepage just because that's what I'm used to. And I've got these asterisks here for the folders I need to get to quickly. And then it always has this quick access. So, for example, earlier today, I was updating the eLearning Day online options that we have. And so I had to get back. I accidentally closed it out and I had to get back to it quickly. And so I could get to it there. Another option is to click on your recent and you'll see different things that we've been working on. You'll notice all of my pictures are there because I just recently uploaded those. All right, we've already talked about starred. And of course, you have trash. So things that you delete are going to be moved to the trash folder, and they do not stay here indefinitely. I believe that the trash is emptied every 30 days, maybe. If you do delete something from the trash, Susan does have the ability to go back and find it, but it's a huge pain. So just be careful about deleting things. These are things that I definitely did not need. These were working documents that don't even have anything in them anymore. So I got rid of them so they would not show up in my Google Drive. You can look down here to see how much storage has been used. And so I have actually used 1.2 terabytes of space, which is a ton. But I do a lot of videos and I use a lot of pictures for our district. Most Google Docs, like slides, sheets, those are all going to be very small. But because I do have a lot of videos, you'll see that some of these are very, very large. We don't have to worry about storage though. So just keep that in mind. We have unlimited storage in our district. So I just let it all live in my Google Drive and I don't worry about deleting or cleaning it up. If I ever leave the district, though, that is something to think about because your drive would be deleted. And so I would have to go through and do Google Takeout or something to get rid of all of the 1.2 terabytes of storage that I have online. But most of the stuff I do not need moving forward. So I just leave it there. Okay. You never know when, especially my videos and things, I never know when I might need to come back and look or use the footage that I have. This is the view that I prefer. But if you come up here to the top right, you have a couple other options. This is called grid view, where everything looks like a box. So if I go into my organizing drive, you'll notice that everything's a rectangle or a square. So this is a grid view. Another option you have is list view. So if you click on list view, it gives you more information. So you've got the name here, you have who owns it, and then when it was modified. So this is really important because you can actually add folders to your drive that people have shared with you, and it looks like you're the owner because it's in your drive, but you're not. And so an example of that, if I click on, let's say I go to shared with me, and see, I don't like this view. I prefer the grid view. All right, so I want to go to a folder that has been shared with me. And if you notice, I'm a part of some Google Classrooms. That's why you'll see some files with student names on them. Why I have access to that is because Google Classroom does all of the parent folder, the subfolder, the creation of those files, and the sharing with those files all in the background. All a teacher has to do is click a button, and it does all of that automatically. And then the teacher actually has access to everything that they see. That's one thing that makes Google Drive really awesome. All right, so here is a folder. Okay, and if I'm not sure who it's from, I could go into that list view, and then he's the owner, and you can see when he shared it with me. If I right click on that folder or document, I can add to my drive. So once I add it to my drive, if I click organize, I can choose where I want that to be. So the reason I asked Sam to share pictures with me is to create a video about the parade. So I wanted this to go in my videos folder. So I named it the e-learning teacher parade. And then I'm telling it to move it here. So I'm going to go back to the view that I like. I'm going to go to my drive. I'm going to click on the video folder, which again, I've put asterisks there because I make a lot of videos for our district. I click on e-learning teacher parade, and then you can see the parade pictures right here. So why would I want to do that? I would do that because now I know in my drive where they're located and I can easily access them. Before, I had to go to shared with me, and I'm not sure if you remembered seeing all of these things, but it was not easy to find something from Sam because of all this other junk. And so, well, sorry, not to call what other people have shared with me junk, but there are a lot of files, especially like a teacher is going to have a lot of files from their students through Google Classroom. So if you have something that someone shared with you and you're working on it, or it's something you need easy access to, if you right click, add it to your drive, now I know I can go, my drive, videos, e-learning teacher parade, and now I have Sam's folder with his pictures inside. Now if I click on this list view instead of the grid view, that might help remind me that I do not own this folder. This folder is owned by Sam. So all this is a shortcut to his folder. Another example of that, if I click on starred and then click on leadership meetings, you'll notice Dr. Rosenberger is the owner of this folder. We just put all of our documents that we need to share with principals in this working folder. So here's our most recent one. And I'm going to go to our last principal meeting that we got to have, which would have been in March. So you can see all of these different files are owned by different people. So it is important to remember that just because it's in your drive, it doesn't necessarily make it yours. And so a perfect example of this when we first did this was a principal went in and renamed it because it used to be called principal's meeting or admin meeting. I can't remember. And he renamed it to be leadership meeting. Well, that changed that folder name for everybody because it wasn't his folder and we all had access to it. And so we were all kind of frantic trying to find what happened to this folder. So you wouldn't want to go in and start deleting things from that folder or go in and editing the documents unless that is the intention. So just be mindful of that. And also, if Pam McDowell decided that she wanted to go in and delete these folders because she's the owner, it would also delete it from all of our drives as well. So just if there's something that you're working on, but you want to make sure you have a copy of, then you would want to make sure that you create a copy of that document. So that's super easy to do. You cannot create, if I right click, you cannot create a copy of a folder, which is a bummer, but you can right click files and create a copy of that file. Right click and then make a copy. The last little piece I want to talk to you about here is the I. That eye gives you more information about the files that are in your drive. So if I click on any document, it's going to tell me who the owner is, when it was modified, when it was last opened, and by whom. This just gives you additional information. I can see that Susan Shirley went in and she modified this document. So if I click on this, manage versions, this is how you could go back and see what changes have been made. And then also if somebody were to go in, and sometimes when you're working together in folders, people get confused and they might go in and delete everything or change what you have. And so this is how you could go back and restore a previous version. So another great tool or feature that Google has in Google Drive is this shared drive feature. Because I am the owner of all of these folders, anybody that I've shared this with would lose access if I were to lose my job and all of my information were to get deleted. Because we don't hold on to accounts indefinitely when people leave the district, everything in their Google Drive folder does get deleted. Their entire Google account gets deleted. And so an example of that is this e-learning folder. Inside of this e-learning folder is everything that is on our e-learning website. It's all of the planning that we've done. It's all of the documentation that's happened. So I am the sole owner of this folder. And so I can come in here and I can actually change who is the owner of this folder. So if I click on share, I can come in and I can change, let's see who all this has been shared with. See, it says Beth Abney as owner. I could decide to give Warren Simpson ownership of this folder. And so if I were to leave the district, that is something I would want to do, because I would want to make sure that everything that we've worked on so far with e-learning doesn't get deleted. But another option would have been to have created this e-learning folder in a shared drive. And that will always exist no matter if one of us were to leave. And so I'm a part of a few shared drives. We've got the instructional coaches group, the Big Read. Okay, so this way, anything that was created for the Big Read that is located in this folder will still be accessible to other people, even if one of us leaves. And so this is a great way to work on things that will need to exist no matter who is in your position. In order to quickly create a document. So let's say that you are at a meeting and somebody wants you to jot down information real quick. If you open a new tab and go docs.new, that is going to create a new document in your Google Drive. You can do docs.new, slides.new, and sheets.new. And that is going to create a blank document. I'm going to come up here and name it. So let's say notes for Dr. Rosenberger. And then it's saving all that. Here's my star. Here's my folder. Remember, you would want to move it, because if you don't move it from here, it's going to take it and it's going to drop it in your Google Drive folder, which could be a huge mess like mine. All right, oh, here we go. Now it's loading. So you can see all of these different files that I have just created and did not give them a home. So that is kind of a mess. And we are just at the A, guys. So there are a ton. So it's kind of funny that I'm teaching this lesson about organizing Google Drive, because I'm not necessarily the most organized person. But what's so great about Drive and email and all of these things is you find whatever works for you. And so some of the tips that I've shared with you, that's what works for me. And then I've tried to share with you some of the things that don't. But if you go ahead and save all of these to a precise location to begin with, then you won't have this crazy mess. But that brings me to my last point about Google, and that is reminding you all that Google was initially a search engine. So Google is incredibly good at searches. So if you come up here to search and drive, I can search for Easter and just hit enter. It's going to look for file names, but it's also going to look within documents to find anywhere that it has the word Easter. Now, one thing that I like, I can click on any one of these documents, and then down at the bottom it's going to give me that breadcrumb trail that I was talking about. Because I may not necessarily want to open this document, but because of the way I organize things, I know that this is the folder, this week one folder is where I want to click. So it's going to take me to this folder where I have all of that information. So that's how you can search. Now, if that's not finding you what you need, you can come over here and click on this expandable arrow. And this way you can do a more advanced search. I can tell it to look for just photos. Well, actually, you can look at all the different file types, but I want it to just look at photos and images. Anyone could be the owner, and it can search anywhere. And I want it to look for the name, let's see, HPE, because I'm sure somewhere I have some videos of Honey Path Elementary. So I'm going to click search. All right, and so it has brought up all of these different pictures. I can click, remember, this list view to see who the owner is. Oh, and I'm actually the owner. Or I can see Megan Rainey shared this folder with me from Honey Path Elementary School. Nice picture. That's really pretty. So if you know even part of the name or part of what might be in that document, you can always come up here and find through that advanced search or through searching in Drive, you could always come up and find it that way. If it's something that you know somebody shared with you, you could actually change the location to be shared with me. So it's actually searching in that shared with me folder. And I think that's probably mostly where you might be looking for a document, is something that someone shared with you. But because that shared with me gets kind of crazy and it's kind of hard to organize, well, kind of impossible to organize, this is a good way to go in and find certain documents. There are some different ways that you can organize your folders. So you could have it sorted by name from A to Z or Z to A. Remember that asterisks and numbers will always be first if you're doing A to Z. And it's always going to do folders first, and then it's going to do, after folders, it's going to do individual files. So that's why it's good to have everything in a folder if you can, because then that's going to just make it easier to find and locate that what you need. All right, if I click on name, there are a few other ways that you could sort your folders and sort your files. Okay, last modified by me, and last opened by me. I would click on recent if I were trying to find something that I just recently opened. So that may or may not be helpful. I honestly never ever use this. I always keep it in name, and I always keep it A to Z. But that's just another way that you can kind of find things. All right, guys, there you have it. There are my 10 tips for using Google Drive and ways to help keep you organized. If you have any questions, please do not hesitate to reach out and ask. Thanks.